Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where people mistake regular Joe Schmoes as employees, and the stories are absolutely ridiculous. In today's episode, we've got power-tripping Karen managers, a clueless idiot who doesn't seem to get the hint, Karens demanding customers serve their children, and one OP tells a story about the time a shady Karen boss screams at her, and it's the worst mistake ever. Guys, I hope you enjoy today's stories. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I browse the sub, and I always listen to these stories, and I'm always impressed at how dumb some people can be. I had an encounter a little while back that I thought I'd share. First, my actual job is driving a truck. The day this happened, I went about 200 miles to drop off a tank and pick another one up. I was told it would be several hours before my return tank was clean and ready, so I decided to leave my trailer there and go find a place I could get some food. Well, I found a place. I pull in, parked, yada yada yada. As I went inside, I noticed a bus from an old folks' home outside. I found my way to the pantry section to look at what food was available and was kindly asked a question by one of the nice people from the nursing home. I spent some time talking to them and helping out because I had nothing better to do anyways. They were also clearly very happy to have someone to talk to. I should probably mention I didn't have a cart because I was only getting a few things. I think it's also important to note that I was dressed like a hobo because I work with chemicals, and even though the ones I personally handle are relatively safe, I have a 2-year-old at home, and I throw out anything with any sort of contact before going in the house. So yeah, I look like a hobo when I'm at work. This is when a well-dressed lady walks up to me, and she basically thrusts her crap pile of papers into my chest, and she said, "Follow me to my car." Now, I was a bit confused, and unfortunately for me, I wasn't prepared, and I dropped half of her crap. Before I said anything, I bent down to try to pick it up, and that's when she got nasty, and she said, "Sorry, but hurry up, I've gotta be somewhere." Now, the woman did say sorry first, so being nice, I picked her crap up and I tried to hand it back to her. But the woman was already walking away, and she told me to come, like I was a dog. I got pretty annoyed at that point, so I put her stuff on a shelf and I walked away myself. A few minutes later, as I got to the register, I hear the clicking of heels, and I turn just in time to have her walking right up to me and ask where her stuff was. I told her I left it on the shelf, and she looked completely confused, and she asked why did I do that, and do I not know who she is? That's when I responded that she could have probably asked politely if she needed help, and that's when she loses it. She says, "You are fired." She then looked at who must have been the manager, and she said, "He's fired. Do you hear me? I don't want him working here anymore." The manager just said, kind of looking embarrassed. He then said, "He doesn't work here." And she responds, "And he won't ever," as she walked away to get her stuff. I just paid for my stuff, and the poor manager was half trying to make sure I was okay, and half trying not to laugh. He told me the lady was from corporate and she's supposed to check up on stores. Now, I really wish I would have said something witty, but I was half in shock at what happened and how poorly this professional woman handled herself. I wasn't gonna call corporate because I find the situation almost amusing, but after talking with some people and my friends, they told me to at least call to have it on record. They said that people have to work under her and she likely treats them this way, so I did. They took some info, and I was promised a callback so far. Update number 1. So I got a callback from a guy on their customer service team. The guy was really cool, and he offered me a bunch of free stuff, which I really didn't want. He told me they know without a doubt who was where, but because of her position, his boss would be handling it. He said that his boss would be calling me to follow up. Update number 2. So the VP of customer service called me today. The guy was extremely down to earth and apologetic. He understood that I didn't want anything in terms of compensation. And my concern was more for how this woman would treat employees and how she'd likely get away with it. He described the woman to me and I confirmed it was her. He then said that she does indeed work for corporate, but she's a part of a team of contracted consultants. His first reaction would be to fire her, but it would be more complicated than that with their contract. He said these particular consultants have nothing to do with customer service and should have zero control and little contact with employees in the store, except for department managers. This particular company's contract is reviewed quarterly, and he's already asked her company to remove her from the next round of renewals. He doesn't know what action her company will take against her, if any. Maybe it's not the best result, but I was glad to get an honest answer. I honestly wasn't even gonna complain, if not for people pointing out how store employees could be treated. So yeah, she fired me, and not only did I not work there, she was a contractor, and she couldn't fire me if I did. Yeah, some people literally let the corporate power go straight to their heads, guys, and it's funny to know that she couldn't even have fired OP at all, even if she wanted to. Like, get off your high horse, Karen. But yeah, it does suck that nothing will come of it, and Karen probably won't lose her job, but it is nice to know that OP did try, and he was looking out for employees who had to deal with her. And this person says it the best, guys. This person says, the moment she pulled the cum BS, I would have thrown her crap up in the air instead of putting it on the shelf. So my girlfriend is temporarily relying on me for transportation from her workplace. She works the closing shift. So the day this happened, I'm sitting outside the store after hours in the parking lot, waiting for her to come out. I'm chatting with a few others who are also waiting to pick someone up. The store lights are off, the doors are clearly locked, and it's very obviously closed. Along comes Mr. Consumer. He drives up, hops out of his car, and he trots confidently up to the doors. When they don't open automatically, the guy grabs the handle and he tries to slide one open manually. No luck. It's locked. That's when Mr. Consumer looks at us and he says, "Hey, guys, why's the door closed?" I tell him the store's closed. He then says, "No, it's not. They're always open late." At that, I just shrug, like what am I supposed to say? The guy continues trying to push the door open and he starts knocking, banging, trying to get someone's attention. And then you can practically see the light bulb flicker in his head. The guy looks at us and he says, "Hey, can one of you guys let me in? I need to grab a few things." The guy next to me says, "Yo, does it look like we work here? I'm just here to pick up my son." I tell him, "Come back tomorrow, dude. The store's closed." But Mr. Consumer's not having it. He says, "I just need cat food," and then something else. I didn't catch the second item. That's when the other guy with us says, "Dude, we don't work here." Mr. Consumer throws up his hands in frustration and he walks back to his car. As the guy passes us, he shoots us a glare that could sour milk. Once he reaches his car, he says, "I'm coming back tomorrow morning and I'm getting all of you fired." Rude pieces of crap like you need to learn how to help a customer. The guy then gets in his car, grabs his phone, and he very obviously starts messing with it, probably trying to take our pictures or something. Once I realized what he was doing, I gave the others a heads up, and we casually move out of the light and into the shadows. As Mr. Consumer drives away, he flips us off. About 5 minutes later, the store employees finally come out, followed by the manager. It turns out they had to delay letting anyone leave because some crazy guy was banging on the windows, refusing to go away. No idea if the guy was drunk or high. He wasn't slurring and he drove pretty straight. But whatever was going on with him, he was definitely not in touch with reality. But it doesn't end there though. A few nights later, the same thing. Our little social club was back outside waiting for our passengers. I'm out there with the two same guys as before, and we're just chatting under a lamppost on a nice night. As we're sitting there, who should drive up but Mr. Consumer, who from now on will be known as Mr. Clueless for reasons that'll become apparent. The guy says, "Hey, I spoke to corporate, you know." At this point, it's worth noting that again, the store is closed. The lights are off, the door's locked, the big sign outside is off. We all look at each other and then back to Mr. Clueless, and the guy with me says, "Man, you don't get it, do you? We don't work here." Mr. Clueless says, "Don't lie. I spoke to corporate about you guys refusing to let customers inside the store to buy things." That's when I say, "Dude, we do not work here. We can't let you in." That's when Clueless says, "But the store's open all night. It's on all of your advertising. So you tell me why it's locked right now and I can't get inside." And this is when it clicks. Mr. Clueless has obviously mistaken this store for the competitor store, which is open 24/7, and it's about half a mile down the road. So I tell him, "Dude, this is this store, not competitor store. Their sign is down the road. See? They are 24/7. I then point to the competitor store, and I can clearly see that their sign is a half a mile down the road. But Mr. Clueless just squints that way, and he says, "I can't see that far." And I thought to myself, holy crap, the man can't see 6 blocks. If his eyesight's that bad, he shouldn't be driving. He's a menace. The guys I'm with see it too. One of the guys says, "You mean to tell me you can't see half a mile? Dude, you need glasses. You need to stay off the streets until you get glasses, Grandpa." And that's when Mr. Clueless loses it. He says, "Okay, that's it." The guy gets out of his car and starts walking towards us. At this point, I don't know what he's planning. The guy's walking like he thinks he can take all of us on. And then he stops and backs away when one of the guys I'm with starts marching towards him. Apparently, Mr. Clueless is not completely brain dead. He then screams, "You guys have to go inside sometime. I'm gonna wait here until you do." And I just thought to myself, great, that means this nutter is gonna keep the workers inside until the impossible happens. So I just pull out my phone thinking, time to call the cops. If this guy refuses to wear his driving glasses and can't see half a mile, he's dangerous and he needs to be removed. So I dial 911 and they say, "Emergency, how can I direct your call?" I tell him, "We have a person here in the parking lot of this store at this location who's behaving dangerously. Could you send a cruiser?" At that, Mr. Clueless screams, "F this." He then jumps into his car and drives off. Since he's leaving, I tell the dispatcher to cancel the police, but I mention that he said he can't see and could be a danger on the road. I give her the guy's description, the car's make and model. The one guy I'm with is on the phone with cops, giving the license plate, which I missed. The manager later thanked us for getting rid of this weirdo, since he posed a potential threat to the employees. Technically, we could have been a threat too, but the employees vouched for us. We learned the manager can't release people from the store until guys like him had cleared out. So I've been contemplating sharing this, as it's not your typical "I don't work here" encounter. This happened well over 2 decades ago. When I was in college, studying catering and hospitality in my first year, I was looking for a summer job to gain experience and start earning a bit of money for textbooks. I came across an advertisement for a kitchen worker position at a local kids' play area. The place paid $7.50 an hour for 16 hours a week. Nothing glamorous, but it was enough for me. So I submitted my resume and hoped for the best. A few days later, I get a call from Karen, the manager. The woman sounded intense but professional enough. She invites me for an interview, and she said if it went well, there would be a trial shift to follow, which it did. I went in for the trial shift on a Monday, and honestly, I thought I did pretty well. I prepped the food, cleaned as I went, and even labeled the fridge using first in, first out, something we'd been taught in college. I also made friends with the girl I was working with, who was also on a trial shift, and I got her phone number. After the shift, I just went home, waiting to hear back. A few days later, Karen calls and she says, "I'm sorry, you weren't successful," she said bluntly. I was disappointed, but I stayed optimistic. I then messaged my friend who I worked with, telling her I didn't get the job, unfortunately, and we wouldn't be seeing each other at work. She said she didn't get the job either. So imagine my surprise when a week later, I was sitting in a 9 a.m. front of house lecture and my phone buzzed. I ignored it. After class, I checked my voicemail. I hear, "Hey Lily, it's Karen from the kids' play area. You were supposed to start your shift today and you didn't show up. We had to close the kitchen because of you. This is a terrible first impression." I just thought to myself, wait, what? I immediately call back, the receptionist answer, and I asked to speak to Karen. I could hear her whisper, "It's Lily," on the phone, before Karen snatches the phone and she exploded. And she was screaming. Like screaming how irresponsible I was, how I'd let the kids go hungry, how she'd had to refund angry parents, and how she couldn't believe that I'd betray her trust. I just calmly wait for her to finish her meltdown and then said, "Karen, you told me I didn't get the job, remember? You literally said those words, remember?" There was a pause, and then she snapped and said, "No. You were supposed to start today. Don't you gaslight me." That's when I told her I only agreed to a trial shift, and I made it clear that if I got hired, which I didn't, I would need set days because of my college schedule. But she didn't care. The woman just kept on yelling. So I told her politely I wouldn't tolerate being spoken to like this, and I asked her to not call my number again. But things didn't end there. Later that day, the girl who worked with messaged me. It turns out Karen had also called her, ranting about the same thing. We came to the conclusion that Karen might have been running unpaid trial shifts for weeks during the busy season, cycling through students and never officially hiring anyone. Just free labor under the guise of experience. Now, the story should have ended there, but it didn't. About a week later, the girl I worked with messages me, saying, "Hey, did you hear the news? The children's play area shut down after the manager had a meltdown." Now, I'm only going off what I was told, but apparently, the girl's friend was a full-timer there, and a safety inspector had failed them. Upon doing so, Karen locked herself in the kitchen and she started throwing pots and screaming that the world was out to get her. That, of course, led to police being called. When the police arrived, she allegedly hurled a box of frozen chicken nuggets at one officer and tried to barricade the back door with a mop bucket. She was eventually escorted out in handcuffs. So yeah, my first ever interview and trial shift ended up with a screaming manager, free labor exploitation, and an arrest. Not exactly what I had in mind when I thought of real-world experience, but in hindsight, I definitely dodged a bullet and maybe a flying nugget too. Holy moly, did that Karen boss ever seem unhinged as heck. Like, that's definitely not somebody who should be running a business. That said though guys, I learned after Googling that what the owner was doing was highly illegal, although not unheard of in the restaurant industry. Apparently, people are saying that sometimes, especially in the restaurant industry, owners are just looking for free help for a few hours, often during busier periods, and they'll bring in people for trial shifts and then say, "Sorry, you didn't make the cut," afterwards. So yeah, people do comment saying you're doing it at your own risk, but what a story that was. And hearing that karma got her after using who knows how many people for free labor is incredibly satisfying. Like, some people are seriously crafty as heck when it comes to being scummy. Karens. I never thought I would meet one in the wild, but I did. This story takes place at a small art store near my home. The store is fairly small and only has 3 employees working in it. A bit about me is I really like to draw. So I come in the store maybe once a week, and me and the 3 employees were on fairly good terms. The day this happened, I had just gotten off school. And since it was a pretty nice day out, I decided to take a slightly longer way home so I could stop by the art store. I was walking the entire way with my headphones on, blasting some music, and I kept them on in the store. I did quiet the music down a lot, so if anyone needed to say something to me, I would hear it. Now, this store never has a lot of customers at once. I think the most I've seen is 5, including me, and on this day, it was no different. There was a guy, maybe a few years older than me, looking at some paint markers, and then there was the woman and her daughter, the Karen of the story. I didn't think anything of them since they weren't doing anything yet. I quickly went to the back corner section with a bunch of sketching pencils and began picking out the ones I needed. Another thing about me is I'm a person that hates all confrontation. I'll avoid it at all costs. I get nervous and stressed easily, so if somebody tries to annoy me, I will try to ignore it. That said, Karen's daughter appears at the end of the shelf I'm looking at. The girl looks at me for a while before walking up to me. She then tugs on my shirt, and I look down at her and take out one of my earbuds. I say, "Can I help you?" The little kid says, "I need markers." I looked at her in confusion for a moment, and I say, I'm sorry, but I don't work here, and I don't know where they are." Now that wasn't fully a lie. Telling somebody in an art store that you're looking for markers is pretty useless. That, and I wanted to avoid any more interaction with her at all costs. But that didn't work. The kid says to me, "Can't you just help me find a specific type of marker?" To which I reply, "I'm sorry, I really can't help you." I then plug my headphones back in and walk out of the pencil aisle. I quickly move to the section where they have some Copic markers, some very good and expensive markers. After I found about 4 I needed, the mom approaches me and she puts her hand on my shoulder, and then she said something, which is red flag number 1. I then came face to face with a very angry Karen. I was a bit shocked from being grabbed, so roughly, I didn't catch what she said. So I said, "I'm sorry, what?" The woman just looked furious. The hand that was resting on my shoulder now grabbed and yanked my headphone out. She then says, "How can you wear headphones in here? How are you supposed to work if you don't hear customers?" I was now very confused and getting extremely nervous. I say to her, "Lady, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about." She then says, "Oh, don't you pretend to be innocent. You don't just get to ignore my kid when she's asking you something and then act like nothing happened. Now, can you help us find some markers?" I tell her, "I'm sorry, lady, but I really don't work here. I was just getting some supplies for myself." I then lift up my hand to show her that I still had the pencils and markers in it, and that wasn't the right thing to do. The woman looked ready to slap me. I tell her, "Okay, please get away from me." And this is when finally one of the employees noticed me and Karen, and they came over, asking, "Is everything okay here?" Karen says, "No, this one girl was ignoring us. You really need to watch who you're hiring. Some young people just love to slack off." At this point, I was really starting to get annoyed and tired. Karen still hadn't taken a step back, and she was way too close for my liking. I tell her, "I already told you I'm not an employee. Please take a step back." The employee at this point says, "Ma'am, please back off the customers or I'm gonna remove you myself." Karen finally takes a step back and she turned her full attention to the employee, and she says, "You are useless." The employee just looked at me and could easily see that I was starting to shake and was flustered, and then told me, "Hey, you can leave, I'll handle this." I quickly thanked the employee before walking around both of them and Karen. In less than 10 seconds, I was at the cash register and got checked out, and I was quickly booking it to the door. I could hear Karen yelling at that poor employee before I left. I didn't go back to that store for around a month, but when I finally returned, the same employee came up to me and started apologizing for Karen's behavior. Apparently, she continued to yell at the employee until they had to call the police to remove her and her crying child from the building. Yeah, the fact that some people act like that with children with them is freaking baffling, guys. And with the cops getting involved, like, way to go, mom. You probably traumatized your girl by acting like that when you could have easily said, "Oh, sorry, let me go find someone else to help us find markers." Like, I've said this before, guys, like, a lot of the times, it's not even worth it to entertain these Karens. Like, OP should have just walked away instead of explaining themselves and escalating things. Like, either that or it's self-defense at that point, right? Like, she put a hand on OP first, so it's only fair that she get judo flipped onto the floor, right? So about a week ago, I started a job at Walmart as one of those digital shopping fulfillments people. My job is to pick items and shop for others. I scan items, place them in the correct tote bins for the customer's orders, and then push my cart along to find the next items. Today was my first day off since starting, and that's when I realized I needed to get groceries and other items. The Walmart where I worked is also the Walmart where I shop. And I don't use my regular shopping cart. I bring my own collapsible rolling cart, like the classic little red wagon, except mine's my favorite color, blue. Accidentally, Walmart blue. And what did I decide to wear while I shopped, you ask? Well, I wore one of my favorite tank tops, as I can't wear sleeveless tops when I'm working. Also, my favorite color, blue, Walmart blue. I find myself shopping with my partner, who also happens to be wearing a blue shirt. That's when this very kind older woman, who looked like the sweetest grandma, gently approaches us while we're looking at candy, and she says, "Excuse me. I don't mean to be a bother, and I wasn't sure if you're employees or not because of all the blue, but do you happen to know where the Ovaltine is?" At that, I chuckle a bit, knowing that this random woman had caught me on my day off, doing my job for myself, and I looked like I knew what I was doing, so much so that she approached us to ask where something was. I start looking it up on my phone, and I say, "Well, ma'am, I actually do work here, it's just my day off, but I can absolutely look that up for you." So I find it, and I start pointing and say, "It's just down the next aisle on the far end." She thanked me, and my partner actually went with her to show her where it was and to grab some Ovaltine for us too. I had to share this because I couldn't believe I had my first ever simultaneous moment of I don't work here and I do work here. See, this is what I say all the time, guys. Like, if people actually approached others with respect and kindness the way this woman did, this is how a lot of these interactions would be. It would just be kind humans helping other kind humans out. Like, what a lovely palate cleanser to all the psycho Karen stories out there, right? That said though, guys, in this insane world we live in, these three people being pleasant and polite to each other is kind of surprising, right? But they just did something normal people should do. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitledpeople episode, where psycho Karens are ruining people's days, and it's wild. Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.